Hi, I'm Dempsey Palat, and this week I'm reviewing
Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
Megalopolis was directed by Francis Ford Coppola and features an ensemble cast that consists of Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, Nathalie Emmanuel, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, Jon Voight, and Laurence Fishburne, just to name a few. And the film's official synopsis, according to IMDb, is as follows. The city of New Rome is the main conflict between Cesar Catilina, a brilliant artist in favor of a utopian future, and the greedy mayor Franklyn Cicero. Between them is Julia Cicero, her loyalty divided between her father and her beloved. And sure, that is what the film is about, technically. But there is so much more going on here. By now, you've probably heard of this film either because of the insane stories about how long it actually took Coppola to get it made, or the controversial casting of some of its actors, or the controversial made up quotes that appeared in the film's first trailer, or the alleged misconduct by Coppola during the film. Or maybe it ended up on your radar because of the memes.
So go back to the club.
And I say all that to basically underline the fact that this film has been in the news, or at least the headlines of the news, for the past few years, and not for anything particularly positive. Early reviews of the film were also extremely polarizing. I mean, have you seen that letterboxd curve? But despite all the controversy, I recognize that this might very well be Francis Ford Coppola's final film. And after reading up on all the time that he spent trying to get this film made, more than 20 years, and all the things that he did to finally see it through to the finish line, I figured, what's the worst that could happen? I lose 2 hours and 28 minutes. Big deal. And you know what? After finally seeing this movie, all I can say is that it was truly unbelievable. Now, do I mean that in a good or a bad way? Let's talk about it. First and foremost, I do want to say that the film is technically categorized as an epic science fiction drama. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that I don't think that's entirely accurate. While I do think that the film is epic in scope, and sure, the main concept of the film that the title is actually derived from is rooted in science fiction, I think the film is actually more satire than anything else. The fact that the film has kind of gained a subtitle in recent weeks tells me everything I need to know about it. I don't know if you've noticed it, but if you look at the latest poster, the latest trailer, the film's title is no longer just Megalopolis. It's Megalopolis, and then right underneath it, you see the two words, a fable. That tells me that nothing in this film should be taken at face value. And there's one very specific sequence in this film where Adam Driver's character, Caesar, is cruising through this crime-ridden neighborhood, and you can see a heavy police presence, which is indicative that a lot of criminals live there. But on top of that, as he's going through this part of town, we also see these huge statues holding Libra scales. And one by one, as his character passes them, they all begin to collapse as the scales tip under the weight of injustice. It's a pretty cool thing to see. It's a very gorgeous achievement on behalf of Coppola and his cinematographer. That sequence is really just like the part of the film that affirmed to me that nothing in this film should be taken at face value. As I said, I think it just also proves to me that the world in which this story takes place is extremely abstract. And if you think that's out there, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the film's absurdity. It extends to both the performances and the plot as well. Everyone in this film is overacting. Aubrey Plaza and Shia LaBeouf are obviously having the best time here. In fact, their first real scene together, in my opinion, happens way too late in the film. It happens like just at the start of the third act. And honestly, it is one of the greatest things in the entire film, truthfully. And when they finally come together, it's so enjoyable because they understand what the film is trying to say. They are giving this film and the people exactly what they want. Yes, all of the acting and everybody being like 200% at all times can get exhausting and frustrating at times. But on the opposite side of that, the film is never boring. I was never bored once watching this film. It's hella entertaining. And once again, it keeps you on your toes and constantly wondering whether or not everything you're watching should be taken at face value or if it's a very purposeful caricature of our very own world. One thing that makes the performances particularly enjoyable is when you realize that several of the characters are actually supposed to be avatars for real world figures. And I'm going to speak to these two particular examples because they are the ones that I think are the most obvious. There's a character that's very clearly supposed to be Donald Trump, and there's a character that's very clearly supposed to be Taylor Swift. And the former is or even views himself as a sort of Robin Hood kind of figure, whereas the latter goes through some major changes, resulting in an edgy artistic arc. It is fantastic. Now, the plot might just be the only thing that I cannot defend in this film, and that's because it is undeniably all over the place. In fact, there is so much happening in this film that at one point I found myself just compiling a list of all the things that one, I did not expect to see in this movie that were ultimately in this movie, and two, some of the things that I didn't expect to have lasting impacts on the characters or any of the story arcs here. And this is a short list. I had to cut it for time, but here are just a few things: the Nobel Peace Prize, chariot races, facial reconstruction surgery, satellites crashing. Okay, satellites crashing. That's one thing. Incest, a lot of that. The Who Done It. This film literally becomes a Who Done It murder mystery for like 5 minutes. Not even kidding. Musical numbers. Right before I wrote this down, I told myself I said the only thing missing from this movie is a musical number, and then there was a musical number. Um, this film has it all, apparently. And I know I sound cynical saying that, but that's just to play up the fact that I really can't defend the plot other than to say that I don't think that a lot of this, even though it's presented as like actually happens. And that's where I kind of draw the line or can draw the line with my defense of it. But the plot wasn't the only thing that I had a problem with here. Okay. I did mention before how I like the cinematography. I do think there are a lot of gorgeous shots in this movie, but the way it's edited really bothered me. And it's not so much the way that it was spliced as it was some of the continuity. Okay. And to give you an example, there is a sequence where we follow all the characters at a parade. And right before we see the parade, there's an establishing shot, and it's like a reflection of a building where we see a bunch of flags. I don't know if I'm the only person that caught this, but there was literally nothing but Puerto Rican flags in that reflection. I'm Puerto Rican, so I immediately saw that. I said, okay, that's very interesting. Then cut to the actual parade, and everybody else is holding these weird flags. Some of them look Irish. I want to say I probably saw a Confederate flag in there, but bottom line is everybody's holding these different flags at this parade, and I don't even know what the hell the parade's for. I think they mentioned that the parade is just like to celebrate the mayor, which wouldn't be the most abstract thing in this film, but the bottom line is that establishing shot with all the Puerto Rican flags, like after seeing that back to back with what was actually in the scene, just showed me that they just used or pulled just B-roll from like the Puerto Rican Day Parade that happens in New York City every year and just inserted that because they didn't have anything else. There are so many little random flubs like that that happen throughout the film often and in random order that it kind of becomes a distraction. Sometimes this film feels like a fever dream. Other times it feels like a seizure. Okay. But at the same time, I'm going to say, I think that if you really are able to think about some of the things that you're hearing these characters talk about and seeing them do, that the result is rewarding. Now, I'm all for films being open to interpretation, but after having watched this film and having some time to sit on it, I do think I have a good grasp on what Coppola is trying to say. When we first meet driver Caesar in the film's opening scene, he can literally stop time. While the audience is expected to take that as an absolute fact, I took it as a metaphor for his power. After all, anybody with the right amount of power can stop the world, right? That is, until time catches up with you. Later on in the film, there's a quote that Caesar tells Frank in a crowded room where both of their followers are cheering them on and both of them are challenging each other's ideologies. Caesar tells Frank, "Don't let the now destroy the forever." That is what I think the film is about. We are at a point in history where we are the most advanced we've ever been. We have the answers to everything at the tip of our fingers on the internet. We've created tools that allow us to work from anywhere in the world. We've also created the tools that will probably put us out of work one day. AI. But we're also the cruelest we've ever been. The world is constantly at war. Politicians lie and spread conspiracy theories about cultures without accountability. In America, right now, we are literally one election away from women and minorities losing access to some of the most basic freedoms and human rights. And unless we really start to think about the future, and I'm not talking about the location, I'm talking about the people that are going to occupy it, we won't get there. Now, Coppola is a genius, but there's no way in hell he could have predicted how perfect the timing of this film would be. I don't know if you guys follow New York news, wherever you're watching this from, but the mayor of my hometown, New York City, just got indicted for corruption. And the film is very clearly an avatar for New York City. And I'd be lying if I said that the news, the real world news, didn't impact my reception of this film. You know, power, right? Everybody wants it. And yeah, power's great, but it's also temporary. And if you're not careful with it, it can become a weight that'll drag you, everyone you love, and in some of the most famous cases, an entire civilization down with you. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis is a lot of lists. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But in all seriousness, though, this film is bursting at the seams with so many stunning ideas that you can't help but wonder if Coppola's given up or if he's giving us everything he has left. And it's only when you take a step back that you realize that it's neither. This is Coppola's blueprint for where he thinks humanity is headed next. And it's ultimately up to us to decide if we want to continue to build on that or reconstruct something different altogether. And for all those reasons, believe it or not, I'm going to give this film 4 stars.
Enjoy the show.
1, 2, 3. Yippee yay.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to view this video. It really does mean the world to me. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I have not posted a review in a few months, and before that, probably a few years. But I'm going to be getting into the groove of doing more movie-related content on a more frequent basis. Bear with me as I get everything under control. Also, this is not going to be a permanent setup. This is just the setup that I had for today because I realized I was going to be doing a longer video and I wanted to be a little more comfortable. But yeah, things will change. Things will get better. Things will look cooler. Things will be smoother. And we're all going to watch movies and we're going to have a good time and talk about them. And I cannot wait to see where this channel takes me next. Thank you guys so much again. Until next time, I'm Dempsey Pilat. Take care.